matey.
Oh, there he is. Boy, you're nothing if not punctual. Holy smokes.
Punctual?
Yeah, punctual beyond belief.
I'm not punctual. They had construction going on there from before Peggy's Cove until your big rock that you jacked up.
You're not kidding. What's...
Building up the side of the road.
Oh, culverts and stuff like that?
No, just gravel.
Huh, shoulders.
Yeah, shoulder, leveling up the shoulder. And if imagine, before Peggy's Cove until your rock, single lane, I had to wait.
Holy smokes.
Anyway, tell everybody who you are.
Oh, we'll forgive you.
Tell everybody who you are.
John Little. Last time I checked. Yeah. Been in this room for over 50 years now.
What do you do here?
Blacksmith.
Ah.
Yeah. All kinds of weird things.
Look at it. Show some of the tools.
Well, okay.
How many years did you say?
Well, I opened the shop in 1970. So that's 30, 40, 51 years, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite thing?
Blacksmithing. Well, after Nancy. Gotta be careful here. No, it's just astonishing. I fell into this. I came to Nova Scotia in 1966 to be a graduate student in psychology at Dalhousie.
Oh, is that right?
And I finished all my master's research. It was well received. I was a happy camper. I really enjoyed it. And then a whole series of the most bizarre. It's a crazy story. I got this piece of land, which is I had $1,500 saved up.
Wow.
And I was desperate to stay in Nova Scotia. When I landed in Nova Scotia, you probably have
From
heard
where?
of this. Well, I grew up in New Jersey.
Oh.
And unlike many of my peers at that time, I wasn't here as part of the great migration north to avoid the Vietnam War.
Oh.
Because I had the extraordinary good fortune to have a catastrophic motorcycle accident, which left me with one leg 2 inches shorter than the other, and all kinds of things wrong with me. So Uncle Sam was not interested in having somebody in the army that marches in little circles. Is
that the motorcycle up there?
No, that's my mother.
That's your mother.
His mother in 1932.
Let's go look. Well, that's a monster.
That, in those days, if you couldn't afford a car, you bought a Harley Davidson. It's a little bit different now, but anyway, yeah. I'm John Little. I'm the biggest Little. My parents are like 5 foot and 5'1", and
wow.
When that thing fell over, they had to go get friends. They were wonderful romantics. And this, you know who this lady is, right?
Queen Victoria.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you something shocking. Not 10% of the people that come into the shop know who that is.
Right?
So you're dating yourself.
Oh, right? Yeah, well, you and I are close.
We go back a ways. Oh, you're way younger than I am. You're just a kid. Okay, so how old are you, Eddie?
76.
Oh, well, you're just a kid.
Yeah, well, 77 in January.
Yeah, well, I'll be 79, so.
Oh, when?
February.
Oh,
February 8th.
close.
February 10th, sorry. There it is. Slipped the gear again. Anyway, so, yeah, the acquisition of this land, it's basically, originally it was 100 acres on the ocean with 2 coves. And unbelievably, I didn't know it at the time, but unbelievably, there's soil here. So we have 4,000 square feet of gardens. We've grown virtually all the food we've ever eaten here. We had herds of goats. We don't do that anymore, but chickens and all that. We were pretty self-sufficient here. And all that happened because, it's a long, complicated story, but basically it happened because I crossed paths with a man who was selling my boss at that time textbooks at Dalhousie. He was an itinerant book salesman. And when push came to shove, I had never met this man in my life before. When push came to shove and I had to make the deal, I only had $1,500. The price was $2,500. It's all much more complicated than this, but this is basically it. He reached in his pocket and handed me $1,000 in cash. And I made the deal, and I turned to him and I said, "What's your name?" And that's why we're here.
Well, was it a loan or a gift?
Well, I said, "Well, how do we settle this?" The reason I didn't want to spend more money was because I still have this pathological fear of debt. We've never gotten down that rabbit hole. So, and it's been very good for us because it meant we could live on very little,
Right.
no debts. So anyway, we paid other prices, but we'll get to that. But no, he just happened to be there, and he had money in his pocket because he had borrowed against his life insurance policy. He knew he was going to Nova Scotia and then to Newfoundland, and he wanted to. If he saw a parcel of land, he would buy it for a cottage, for a summer cottage down the road. So the way we settled it was he took the piece between the lake, the main highway, and the McGraw's Cove Road. We took the other side of the lake and down here.
Wow.
And that's and it was a handshake. And we went to see a lawyer. We had a contract written up. We had it surveyed and all that stuff. And just 10 years ago, he called and said we had a deal that neither of us would do anything with our side of the lake without the other guy knowing. Total strangers.
Wow.
And it stood the test of time. He called up and asked my permission to sell his side of the lake because he's 86 or 88 years old now. He has to settle things up. I said, my dear man, you could do anything you want. We owe our entire lives to that weird intersection of two life trajectories, two completely different people, strangers, and click.
Wow.
So everything that's here, Nancy, the gardens, the house, all of it depended on that one coincidence.
Wow.
And it goes on. It goes on. It goes on. I could keep you here for months.
Well, maybe we'll. I don't have months.
Well, the whole story of becoming a blacksmith.
Yeah.
I mean, I was an academic.
Ah.
When I came to, I'll tell you something that might be very interesting to you. Is the experience? I came from I was educated as an experiment at Brown University. Which is an Ivy League college in the States. It's in there with, Harvard and all the rest of those. But they had an experiment. You can look it up on the internet. It was called the Tom Sawyer experiment. And it was Barnaby Keeney, who was the president at that time of Brown. He thought the college had such a terrible reputation for being a playground for the rich and elite. I went to school. There were people in my class, I didn't know them, but there were Kennedys, there were Carnegies, Rockefellers,
wow.
That kind of people. Not my kind of people, but.
Well, how did you get in?
Well, it was the Tom Sawyer experiment.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Barnaby Keeney thought that that they were missing a whole population of potential students who were lateral thinkers and not focused on the elite path, and and he decided 10% of every entering class would be from the ordinary folks, and I was one of them.
Wow.
And I had a great education, and then I came to Dalhousie. Now here's where it gets really interesting. I think when I landed in Nova Scotia, I felt like I'd come to, forgive me, but the promised land. It was.
Right,
I felt like I died and gone to heaven.
Right.
I've always loved Nova Scotia. Everything about this place.
So are you an American citizen?
No, I gave it up.
Good for you.
To become Canadian, there was a 2-year period when you couldn't become Canadian unless you swore before. I had to go to a special office at the American Embassy, and I had to swear for all eternity that I would never ask for my American citizenship back.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was the way it was done for 2 years. It was just a 2-year weird. I'd made my mind up. I mean, I knew I was staying here.
Right.
So to me, my mother said something interesting. I was worried about that. They're very patriotic folks. And she said, well, Jonathan, she said, that country has been awfully good to you. You owe it your allegiance. I thought that was kind of neat, slick, classy. But I've never regretted it. So I'm a full-fledged Canadian, not dual citizenship.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, so it was it's been just a most wonderful adventure ever since I arrived in Nova Scotia.
So his buddy sold his land?
He sold. That's turned into a little bit of an issue. He lives in Kittery Point, Maine, and he's 86, I think now, and they still struggle. Wonderful people. Him and his wife, Paige. His name is Paige Mead. His wife's name is Piep, P-I-P-E. It's a Dutch name, so it's Paige and Piep. And they are a riot together. And he had to sell it through a real estate. He couldn't do it personally, so he hired a real estate company, and they sold it to a guy from England who was turning it into a glamping, this glamorous camping. Have you heard of this?
No.
Well, they're going to set up very luxurious teepees and
Oh,
yurts, and people will come and pay money and camp in style without all the
Inconveniences.
yeah. So I don't think it can possibly work, but anyway, that's what's happening. If Paige had known that ahead of time, he would have not let it happen, but I told him, I said, don't even think about it. We've had half a century here.
Yeah. My theory is 40 years from now it won't matter.
It's true. It's true. That's true. That's true. And you have to be awfully grateful what you have had. I mean, it's just, I just can't believe by good fortune.
Well, that's quite a story.
And it goes on and on and on. Nancy came out on a date. We hadn't even spoken 6 words, I don't think. She, in the middle of February, blistering cold. We had no electricity, no telephone, nothing in those days. And it was just a date. And she never left. So, and she's still here. February 8th is our 50th anniversary.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Almost your birthday.
Yeah, 2 days before. February's a big month for us.
Should have waited till Valentine.
So, yeah. Well, I didn't know where it was going.
Wow.
So
how'd you get into the blacksmith business?
Well, it's such a silly story. Mainly, I didn't want to commute
Oh.
to Halifax.
Right.
This is you must come back on a nice day. We'll walk around the gardens.
Okay.
This place is spectacularly beautiful. The ocean's right there.
Right.
We have all these gardens and all that. And I wanted to stay here. I didn't want to be driving all the time. So I tried fishing, and that was really fabulous. Oh man, everybody should try to fish. These people around here, I can't tell you. Everybody bent over backwards to help me out, and I wasn't used to that either. So they were patient, and what I discovered is, I hope nobody takes offense at this, but one of the things about the fishermen around here that I think is profoundly important is, generally speaking, they don't realize how much they know. I mean, they have the equivalent.
Yes.
I've been through university. I've been through graduate school. I know what that's all about. And this is 2 or 3 university degrees. And they start when they're this high.
Yeah.
And they absorb it. And they don't really know that they know this stuff. So I could sense that there was a little bit of frustration, but the help they gave me. But it's people like me do not belong out on the ocean trying to catch fish for a living. Because
You're better off making fish hooks, eh?
better off, yeah. I took the easy route. I became a blacksmith. But I have always had. I mean, I've always been my poor parents. I was always sort of the weird kid. I've always had an interest in the arts and music. Music has been a huge thing in my life, and I needed some sort of creative outlet, and this is perfect for me. This fits my personality, because I'm not the kind. I can't do things with wood. I can't make that really clear joint. Make that saw cut perfect. I can't do that stuff. It's just not my personality.
Yeah.
I need to jump in when the metal's hot. Strike while the iron is hot. When the metal's hot, it all has to just erupt from some well. And there's physicality. But it's not mayhem. It's gentle. You remember Uncle Willie?
Oh, do I ever remember?
Gentle man.
Oh, was he ever?
He was very typical of the good blacksmiths that I've known in my life. I've known a lot of blacksmiths, and the good ones are all gentle. It's a very violent thing we do. We heat stuff up and we hit it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
These big hammers, I'll show you them in a minute. They hit that thing, hits with 900 pounds force. That's like a 900-pound hammer.
Where's that?
Right there.
Oh, this!
I should tell you,
This is
I gotta tell you. Now watch out when you're walking around in here because
oh yeah, I know.
everything is it's like
Dangerous.
It's like a trap, and everything is greasy and dirty. So just keep that in mind. So this machine now, listen carefully. This is important. This machine was made, both these machines were made by the same company, Beaudry.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah. And this machine is a 50-pound hammer, and it's called a 50-pound hammer because the piece that goes up and down and hits this thing is 50 pounds. So
Why'd you make it go?
I'll make it go in just a second. So this,
But there's the hammer.
this is the equivalent of this, right?
Right.
This is a small hammer, 4 pounds. That's 50 pounds. Now I'm going to turn this on.
All right.
Now I will offer you these.
Earmuffs?
Yeah, they're brand new clean. So
Put them on me.
Put them on. You're very trusting.
Here.
Okay, just a minute now.
What'll
I
I
need to
do?
put my glasses on.
I need to take my hat off.
All right. Hold your breath now. There we go. I think we're good there.
All right, that's good. I would have brought mine if I'd known.
I know people don't.
I wonder what that blue thing was around your neck.
Yeah, these are just wonderful. I love music, so I've been very careful with my ears over the years.
Yeah.
Because this is a noisy business. So, that's a motor, has a flat belt, runs the pulley in the back, and when I step on this pedal, it engages the eccentric. So what happens here is kind of interesting. This coil spring pushes out. Here's the pivot point, and that pushes that in, and there's rollers in there, and they roll up and down an elliptical pocket here. So if you look from the side, I'll just get it going slowly, and you'll see. Just a piece of rubber, so it doesn't do it again. So I press the pedal, and look at the control I have on this. So that's 50 pounds. As I make it go faster, it rolls up and down that elliptical pocket more farther and farther. You can see it from the side. See the control.
So what's that? Is that metal?
I park it on the piece of wood to take the strain off the spring because the spring has memory. Like if you leave your car sitting on the springs and go away 5 years, the springs will have sagged. So you always put a car up on jacks to take the pressure off the springs. Same idea. So now we get to the granddaddy. This was built in 1929. I know the whole history of these hammers.
Wow.
This one was made in 1916, which is before the Russian Revolution.
Amazing.
Think about that.
How'd you find that?
It was in a scrapyard in Cape Breton Island. This was missing. This is a special thing that keeps this going straight up and down. It's called a tapered gib. It's adjustable for wear. As things wear, you pull this down with this threaded rod, and it brings these two sides closer together.
Right.
This was all missing. There was no foundation, of course. I had to build this 2 tons of foundation down there. And we had to invent a pulley system because originally this was designed to have a driving pulley 8 feet above the driven pulley. So we don't have the room here, so we had to cobble this up. And this is an idler pulley here. You'll see how well this works.
So you're an engineer.
It's funny, I started at university as an engineer, but it was way too, I didn't have the cortical horsepower for it. I was just not smart enough. So I went into philosophy, then psychology, and I liked psychology. I really enjoyed that. That was animal psychology, just trying to figure out how people work in terms of motivation and all. It was fascinating. But back in my back pocket, I was always a backyard engineer, cobbling up stuff, sort of like Willie in a way.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so this is what we saw, how we solved it. It's the same basic idea, except that the elliptical pockets are on the inside here. So if I look at that's 150 pounds.
Whoa.
You can almost put your hand in there.
Yeah, yeah.
As it goes faster, it hits harder. Look at the control.
Wow.
So in this business, it's not, it's about force and it's about power, but it's about control more than anything else.
Yeah.
If you heat something up and wail away at it with a big heavy hammer, as hard as you can and as aggressive as you can, you get absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. You have to persuade the metal into a new shape. It's a gentle process. It's a funny thing.
So
Basically,
no.
yeah, you would see. That's the thing about blacksmithing that people don't know. They think of blacksmiths. They think of, you know, big, huge, brutish men beating things as hard as they can with big, huge hammers. It's all foolishness. It's an insult to the actual truth of the trade, which is very elegant in terms of, expand it to human behavior. I don't know about you, but in my experience, getting angry and ripping and tearing gets you nowhere.
No.
Being gentle and kind,
Yep.
it's so much easier. So making war is about the stupidest thing I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
exactly. My theory is take the leaders, put them out in the middle of the desert, and let them go at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to do that foolishness, don't ask me. I'm not interested. Just not interested. Because it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
And we have a long history to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So in this business, you get to do all those things in a gentle way, and it's very, it feels good. What I do is okay. For example, you have to be patient. The old guy is getting kind of stiff.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the,
Just hang on a second here.
yeah, something's going on.
So what's that piece of metal?
Well, this is a good way to explain what I do here. This is the raw material.
Okay, right there.
This is the way I get it from the factory. I buy this bar of steel.
Yeah.
And then I heat this up in the forge over there. I'll show you that in a minute. And I can get this to a light yellow color, not red hot. Red hot is cold for a blacksmith. You can bend things when they're red hot, but you can't forge them.
Oh.
To change the shape of the metal, you really need that light yellow, which is around 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 1,000 C. So you heat that up till it's light yellow, and I bring it over, and I have this overhead track here that I don't have to carry it.
Oh yeah, I see that.
And I put it on the bottom die like that.
Wait, now where am I showing the track?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it ends up yellow hot, sitting right there.
Yeah.
And then I run the hammer, and using these tools that I make them as I need them for whatever.
So these are non-viable.
No, these are
These
just
are made-
made out of junk off the floor.
Wow.
So you take that and you put this on the hot metal like that and hammer the hot metal, and that does these things.
Well,
And spreads the metal where you want it to go. If you want it to go in a particular direction, you use a tool like this and go like this, and it moves the metal this way, but very little this way.
isn't that something?
So you move the metal wherever you want, and that becomes, this is going to be a set of clouds.
Oh,
It's
yes,
part of
I see
a,
that.
it's part of a headboard for a king size bed.
Is this for a customer?
Yeah, there'll be a slot here, and this side will be forged down, and that'll forged up, and then these rays of sunshine
Well,
will be coming out. That's what you put your pillow against.
How do you get a hold in it?
You heat it up, and you take a tool. Well, it's not quite like this, but similar to this, and you go bang, 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 bang. And it cuts the hole.
You don't drill it out.
No. It's too hard. This is the easy way. So you have all these rays of light coming through, and then remember that's there. It's
Okay.
a trip hazard. And this will be the setting sun
Well, look at that.
behind the. Behind the clouds.
Yeah.
The clouds will be going this way, and the rays of sunshine coming through. two patterns.
Wow.
And then on either side there'll be a vertical. And that'll come up like this will be against the wall. And there'll be a big heavy piece coming down. There'll be a slot cut in that, and the clouds will go through the slot.
Well,
and put it in.
So who came up with this design?
And I don't do anything that I don't design. Many years ago, I suddenly had an epiphany. People came to me with pictures out of a magazine and
Wanted you to do something.
say, "Can you make this?" And I said, "You think you want this, but you don't want that. Let me show you what you want." And my deal was, it sounds arrogant as hell, but the deal, what I said was, if you don't like it, you don't have to take it. There's no obligation. And I've never had anyone turn me down in 50 years of business. Because I know what I can do. They don't know what I can do. So,
I paint.
It's the same thing.
I've often had, not often, a few commissions, and I said, first of all, I have to like it.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, I can't paint it.
Yeah, yeah.
And secondly, if you don't like it, you don't take it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like it, and it's good enough for me to sell, then somebody else will take it.
Exactly.
So we're on the same wavelength.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I ask a lot of people, though, sometimes. I ask them to... about 30 years ago, we crossed paths with an American jazz drummer. His name was Jerry Gurnelli. He just died just recently. He changed our lives. I used to be a drummer, and I grew up in that jazz tradition. That's my music. And jazz is a very interesting thing. You don't have to like jazz to appreciate this. It's just a very good way to think about this process. Jazz is something where you play and play and play and play, and you almost never read a score. It just erupts out of your experience.
Okay.
The jazz musician, jazz drummers call it woodshedding. Go out behind the woodshed and practice and practice and practice. And you don't practice, well, you do practice sort of scales, but basically it's a matter of just having this well. And when the musical, in jazz, if you're thinking about the next musical idea, it's already too late. The moment has passed. So it has to just erupt. And it's the same thing with this in many times.
Okay.
At least the way I approach it. So I got interested in making sounds. And an awful lot of the last 30 years, I've been making these, I don't call them instruments, they're contraptions. They're weird things. I'll show you one.
Okay.
You're going to be amazed. I'm going to show you something that's in the gallery.
All right.
And all I do is make these things and put them in front of musicians or dancers or storytellers and watch what happens. And so I make the contraption. I'm a technician. I make a thing.
Yeah.
And they turn it into a piece of art. And I get to watch it. And they pay me for it.
Right.
So it's, who knew?
Right.
Yeah, so let me, while we're just talking a little bit, I'll just give you a little short tour of some of the weird things that go on here.
Yeah, I'd like to.
This, you're going to be puzzled by this.
When does it stop?
Well, come back next week.
What is that?
It's just a bar of aluminum.
Aluminum?
There's nothing special going on there. It's just a bar of aluminum. If you hit it on the side, it sounds just the way you imagine it would sound. But if you hit it on the end, that's what happens.
Wow.
And I'm just exploring that now. For us, I don't make music or instruments. I just make
Noises.
an interesting sound. So here's another one for you. But I won't belabor this too long.
This is fascinating. You're not belaboring. You talk about me tripping over that.
No, guys, good.
What's this one?
actually pay me to do this. I can't believe it. Tell you, Nat, Nova Scotia is just magic. All right, that's a little safer, but
Okay.
only a little bit. This is something else I'm working on right now.
Thundermaker.
Never a dull moment. What you said. Okay, so the way this works is, I bought this hammer from a young man. He had just turned 17.
Yeah.
He makes these hammers.
Are you serious?
He's been making hammers like this since he was 12.
How does he do that?
I'm a pretty good blacksmith. This kid just turned 17.
Amazing.
And I have never seen anything like it in my life. It's just over the top. He just understands everything. He comes from a tiny little town, Strome, Alberta. It's a town.
How'd you find him?
200 souls. We go to, Nancy and I demonstrate at a lot of blacksmithing get-togethers.
Okay.
Two of us. And we were invited to do a demonstration in Ness Creek, Saskatchewan. We've been out there many, many times. A lot of activity out there. And this kid shows up from Strome, Alberta with his striker. That's a sledgehammer guy. From Texas, of course. It's the modern world. From Texas. His name is Mark Ling. He had just turned 16. 2 kids. And I've seen a lot of great blacksmithing in my time. Nothing touches these guys. They're kids. He gave a lecture, and we were doing a demonstration. There was all kinds of people set up in this field. It was really quite amazing. Good people, really good talent. And he's giving this lecture. And it was like, I've been through a lot of university training. I've heard lots of good lectures. Nothing so good. He's explaining the hardening and tempering process, the forging process. It's very subtle, very tricky stuff to explain. Clear as a bell. And he would stop and he would turn to me, and because I'm the old guy, the oldest guy there. And he said, "Mr. Little, am I making myself clear at all? I'm just a teenager, you know." And I said, "Oh." and then I asked him.
So he took a piece of metal.
This is a piece of very special metal. It's called 4140. It's a very hard steel, very hard to forge. And these are all forged out by hand with this striker. And they don't. Nancy will come out and show you how a striker works.
Is she a blacksmith too?
Well, she's worked with me on everything that we've done here for 50 years. Nancy, like I say, 50th anniversary on February 8th. That's 50 years that we've been within 200 feet of each other 24 hours a day. We've done everything together. Everything.
Wow.
We've turned goat kids around. I actually did the surgery, but I know you're a vegetarian, but we ate the goat kids. We did the butchering ourselves. We did everything together. So
wow.
So she strikes for me, and she strikes the normal. It's sort of, people are surprised.
So what's that, a striker, you say?
Yeah, well, normally in the old days, and Nancy will come out and you'll video some. It's fun to watch. It's like a ballet. So I hit, and there's a series of hammer signals, and Nancy hits after me. And she holds the hammer. This is the normal way people do this almost all over the world. You hold the hammer. If you're right-handed, you hold the hammer like this, and you strike like this. And that gives you a huge amount of leverage to bring the hammer back up, which is the hard part.
Okay.
So she strikes like this. Now these kids that made this hammer demonstrated how they do it. It's a completely different world. I can't quite do it because I'm not 16 or 17 and I'm not flexible like that, and I haven't done it ever. But they start, they don't have an anvil. They have a flat plate, a striking plate they call it, a very heavy steel plate. It's lower. And then they stand on a box, so they're a little higher. And the way it starts is, the hammer starts way back in the smaller back, and as they're about to strike, they go up on their toes, the hammer comes up as high as they can reach, and comes down so fast and so hard. I've never seen anybody hit anything so powerfully in my life. These are skinny little guys, no muscles. No bulging muscles anywhere. I mean, they're just skinny little guys. Holy moly! And the impact is just frightening. So I said, will you let me work with you on a project? And they said, oh, that would be wonderful. They're very respectful of the old guy. So we got a piece of steel about the size of this hammerhead. It's on the internet. You can see this.
Okay.
And I held it, and I was like this, holding it, manipulating a tool that was like, the tool which we also made together, a tool like this. And I said, I want to make a bowl, a very dramatic bowl. So I'm holding this piece of steel like this, and I'm putting this on top like this, and they're going to hit that, just the way I just hold it. And I can tell you, there's films of this. It's really quite amazing. I could feel the wind as that hammer goes by my head. And you know what? I had absolutely no fear. No fear. I was not worried about a thing. I remember the feeling. It was just extraordinarily calm. And the people watching were a little bit scared because what if they screw up?
Yeah.
They're going to kill them. You know? I had no worries. And there's a nice comment by one of the spectators, another blacksmith I admire very much, Darrell Richardson. He said, look at these two guys. There's 60 years difference between them, and they both look up to each other. And that's exactly what it was. I've never experienced anything like that. Yeah. So, you know.
So what did he charge you for a hammer like that?
I gave him $200, which is cheap, I think.
So that
He didn't want that, but I insisted he take it.
so that's stronger than the metal.
It's well, okay. I don't know how much. I suspect you've done a fair amount of hand work,
Not metal.
but you've handled hammers. I just want you to pick that up and just feel how it feels, and feel if it's not.
Oh, look at that!
Is that, see?
Wow. But it's amazing.
Yeah. So they asked me to sort of talk about it, and I said, well, it handles like a 3-pound hammer. It hits like a 5-pound hammer, but it's a 4-pound hammer. And there's something magic about it.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. And he makes the handles too. Of course. And then we get home from our trip. We did 2 weekend demonstrations 2 years ago, just before COVID. One in Ontario, one in Saskatchewan. We got home and we turned on the internet and discovered that this guy had just won the Canadian National Fiddle Championship for the 2nd time.
So he's a fiddler.
He's an unbelievable fiddler. Kid can do anything. Yeah.